So he's under private person's arrest for 133225.
What's your last name?
For coercion and extortion of rights, and criminal conspiracy for coercion and extortion of rights with Officer Havey. It sounds like you don't know the laws that you're supposed to know and enforce. Hi. Just wondering if the sheriff's available.
He's not here right now. He's already gone for the day.
Okay.
Want me to-
You might be able to. Can we get his business card by chance?
Yeah, of course. The best way to get a hold of the sheriff is to email him.
Okay.
He's very responsive.
He announced that he's not enforcing the mask order here.
Well, I don't want to comment on that because everybody interprets it. You're talking about his letter?
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody interprets his letter differently.
Wow.
So I think that's
He did a great job then, didn't he?
Excuse me?
He did a great job
Well,
making himself clear.
well, I think if you read it.
Well, we've read
We
it.
read it right before we came in.
Then it's a conversation it sounds like that you need to have with him. He's very responsive to talking to people, whether you agree with him or
We're just curious as to why he called it unconstitutional and yet commands his deputies to enforce it down the road at the courthouse.
Or even in this building. Weird.
Those are questions you need to ask him.
Okay. You should probably file a report
He wrote
also.
the letter. I don't want to speak for him.
That's fine. You should probably file a report also because you know of the discriminatory conduct and it's required by your department policy. Just to let you
file a
know.
report with
Yes. It's required by your department policy, your non-discrimination policy that you signed when you were hired. You might want to read through it and then read his letter and then report the conduct that's unconstitutional, that he claims is unconstitutional, and then commands his deputies to enforce. Have a great day. Not enforcing.
Courthouse. Look what we have here.
Hey. So, obviously, my second card in here sitting on the door. You guys. We just have some questions regarding the statement you guys released saying that you're not enforcing masks yet.
But we have to.
Oh, obviously you are, but the sheriff put out a statement saying he
Said
wasn't.
that you're not.
Yeah. And I've been instructed by the sheriff that everybody wears masks down here. So if you got any
That's odd.
questions,
He said it was unconstitutional and he knows it. Why would he suggest mandating or requiring everybody to wear something that he knows is unconstitutional?
He said it's unconstitutional, and then he told you to enforce it.
Yes, he did.
So under your department policies,
And the commissioners told me to enforce it too.
so under their department's policies and yours, none of you, as our employees, are supposed to follow unlawful orders.
Yeah.
That's coercion and extortion.
Okay. You need, sir, you need either put a mask on or you gotta leave.
So now you're threatening me. You're
No, I'm
threatening
not
my
threatening-
rights.
I'm not threatening you. I'm telling you.
This is a public space, right? A public access, public accommodation. Go ahead and record. It's fine.
Okay, we're gonna record this.
Oh, that's fine.
We are too.
Normally I don't have to. That's what I've been instructed to do.
What was the first letter of your last name?
It's Havey. H-A-E-V-E. Allen.
Do you
A-L-A-N.
mind if we have your DPSST number as well?
12364.
12364. Cool. Okay.
Do you know what the first duties of a sheriff are?
I actually have it for you right here. That second one. Arrest and commit all persons for breaches of the peace and public offense. So an unconstitutional act by a sheriff is a public offense. It's official misconduct. So you're actually required by your first duty of a sheriff to arrest your sheriff for instructing you to enforce the mask order.
No, I want to get along here, okay?
Well, I'm just,
We're not here to get along. We're here to ask some questions.
Because we have differences, you know.
so we're your bosses. You are employed by the people, by the county, which is run by the people. Your oath is to uphold the Constitution.
Can we talk out here, folks?
Sure.
If you feel I'm doing wrong,
Well, I don't feel that you're necessarily doing wrong on your own volition. I think your sheriff is doing wrong, and now that I'm giving notice of that, you're required to act on it. So if you don't want to do wrong, you would be required to act on it. According to law, that's a law, ORS 206010. And if you don't want to act on it, then that places you in criminal liability for conduct of another.
if you have a complaint about my conduct or what I'm doing,
I have a complaint about your sheriff's conduct.
go tell him.
Okay.
You know, go tell him.
But this also rests on you. You realize you're like a pillar of the community. People depend on you to stand up for their rights. And we're just watched. Dozens of kids got run down the road with masks on. They're literally jogging with masks on.
While you guys aren't enforcing it yet.
You're not protecting these children, and they're in your community. What do you think that's doing to them? traumatically. I mean, what do you think it's doing to their psyches as young children?
So here under coercion, which is a felony.
I know coercion.
So unlawfully use or abuse the person's position as a public servant by performing some act within or related to official duties, such as the first duty of a sheriff, arrest and commit all persons for breaches of the peace and public defense. So it would include the people ordering your sheriff to put out that order. So in the OHA rule that Kate Brown is using for this mask mandate policy, she cites 431A, 433, 413, and they're all public health laws. And 413 is the Oregon Health Authority chapter of ORS. Now 431.180, which is right here, says that nothing in 431.001 to 431.550 and 431.990 or any other public health law of this state shall be construed as authorizing the Oregon Health Authorities, chapter 413, or its representatives, or any local public health authority or its representatives, to interfere with in any manner with an individual's right to select the physician, physician's assistant, naturopathic physician, or nurse practitioner of the individual's choice or the individual's choice mode of treatment. So this is Article 1, Section 2 and 3 of the Oregon Constitution, codified into an Oregon statute law. This is the one that says, no law shall in any case whatever control the free exercise of religion and dictates of our own conscience. Now, when you signed up for your employment contract, you signed a non-discrimination policy. That's a requirement of this law right here, ORS 659A.375. That falls under contract law, under ORS Chapter 71, which is the Uniform Commercial Code, codified into Oregon law. That requires an obligation of good faith with your contract, which is what constructs your first duty of the sheriff. That obligation of good faith is what requires you to arrest and commit all persons for breaches of the peace and public defense, for violating our rights, which you signed a non-discrimination policy, claiming that you would uphold and protect. And that variation, that cannot be waived by variation or agreement. The obligation
Guys,
of good rights.
It's my understanding.
Good faith performance.
It's my understanding that there's a meeting between the sheriff and the county council and the commissioners.
There doesn't need to be any meetings for you to perform the arrest with reasonable belief.
Well, I think I'm doing what I'm told.
Wow.
Part of the problem is everybody's doing what they're told, and that's actually not what you're told. This is what you're told. And your policy for your department, your sheriff's department, says that you're not to follow unlawful orders. So if they're telling you to do something that's wrong, you're supposed to arrest them. That's official misconduct.
Would you go up and talk to them?
Sure. Yeah. And we'd love to have you guys on our team and get this all the way. There's thousands of people waiting for this to happen.
Do you have the authority to arrest people,
I'm not
sir?
against you.
I can feel that. I can feel it.
Yeah, I am not against you. I'm not against you.
I am very glad that you've actually taken the time to hear me out and even read these.
I will hear you out.
We've been to 12 other sheriff's departments that are all claiming the same thing.
How are you treated?
Horribly.
Well, I won't do that.
They threatened me with arrest if I went back inside the courthouse without a mask.
That's the problem. If we had if we had official business in this courthouse and we needed to get in,
exercising our right to say no in a public accommodation such as a store, and then the police come and write us a criminal trespass ticket, we then have to go to the courthouse where you guys will then deprive our rights again and force us to wear a mask just to go defend ourselves for not wearing a mask, which is our right.
like if we had official business in here right now and we tried to get in without a mask because it's our right, what would you do if we tried to get in here without a mask? What would you do?
Okay, what would I do? I would do everything in my power to convince you to wear a mask.
And if it didn't work because it's coercion. Do you understand that?
Well,
that's coercion.
I don't. You know.
But you would probably arrest us, would you?
Oh God, you know.
We're asking the question.
We're not trying to permeate you at this point. We just want to know what
you say. Arrest. I mean, I would do anything not to.
But you would.
Would you touch us or write us a citation?
If I had to, yes.
So then you would deprive our rights, is what you're saying?
Yes.
That's what.
Because we have a right to public access, full and equal access. And if we have the right to say no, that means you can't take away our right to public access because those are both rights.
I just tell you.
And you don't want to go arrest the real criminals, but you would arrest or cite us for practicing our rights.
Very reluctantly, ma'am. Very reluctantly.
But you still would.
That's still committing a crime, even when it's reluctantly.
Yes.
That's sad. I could cry right now. That's sad. You're not on our side. I'm sorry. We have to go.
Yeah, we'll go talk to the sheriff now.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, Hib. So we are here with Deputy Habe. So I've already called dispatch to have an officer dispatched here to come and take you as you are under private person's arrest pursuant to 123.225
Okay.
for confessing to criminal conspiracy of coercion and extortion of rights on camera. There are many more charges that go along with it. Official misconduct, bribe receiving, criminal liability for conduct of another, criminal liability as an individual for corporate conduct, misuse of entrusted position, misuse of entrusted property, so a bunch of crimes. We tried telling you yesterday. So if you're not doing your job, you're stealing our money. Any other employer would fire anyone who was not doing their job that they were paying them to do. When you signed your employment contract that came with your non-discrimination policy, which you signed a receipt for, your signature indicates that you read, understand, and know what you're signing and will abide by those terms in that contract. It's part of your obligation of good faith. And you've failed to perform those duties, so you failed the good obligation of good faith of your contract, and you're in breach of contract.
Well, if you're placing me under arrest, I'd like to talk to an attorney.
Well, that's fine. That's your right.
And no further questions.
That's
Thank
fine.
you.
Sure. I'm going to go ahead and talk while you remain silent. It's fine if you want to remain silent. Enrolled House Bill 2929 requires that you guys report or stop misconduct as soon as you're aware of it, and we made you aware of it yesterday. So here we have Scherer versus Cohen, 41F946. We could go on and on quoting court decision after court decision. However, the Constitution itself answers our question: can a government legally put restrictions on the rights of the American people at any time for any reason? The answer is found in Article 6 of the U.S. Constitution, Miranda versus Arizona. Where rights secured by the Constitution are involved, there can be no rulemaking or legislation which would abrogate them. 1973. It's not even that long ago. 1968, Simmons versus United States. The claim and exercise of the Constitution right cannot be converted into a crime. A denial of them would be a denial of due process of law. If the state converts a right or liberty into a privilege, the citizen can ignore the license and fee and engage in the right or liberty with impunity. Shuttlesworth versus City of Birmingham, Alabama. Murdoch versus Pennsylvania. No state shall convert a liberty into a license and charge a fee therefor. Miller versus U.S. There can be no sanction or penalty imposed upon one because of his exercise of constitutional rights. Davis versus Welcher, Stromberg versus California, and NAACP versus Alabama. The assertion of federal rights, when plainly and reasonably made, are not to be defeated under the name of local practice. Johnson versus State. State must produce corroborating evidence of corpus delicti showing that injury or harm constituting crime occurred and that injury or harm was caused by someone's criminal activity. Boyce versus Grundy. Fraud vitiates the most solemn contracts, documents, and even judgments. U.S. versus Throckmorton. Whereas officials and even judges have no immunity. See Owen versus City of Independence. Maine versus Thibodeau and Hafer versus Milo. Officials and judges are deemed to know the law and sworn to uphold the law. Officials and judges cannot claim to act in good faith in willful deprivation of the law. They certainly cannot plead ignorance of the law. Even the citizen cannot plead ignorance of the law. The courts have ruled there is no such thing as ignorance of the law. It is ludicrous for learned officials and judges to plead ignorance of the law. Therefore, there is no immunity, judicial or otherwise, in matters rights secured by the Constitution for the United States of America. See 42 U.S.C. Section 1983. When lawsuits are brought against federal officials, they must be brought against them in their individual capacity, not their official capacity. When federal officials perpetrate constitutional torts, they do so ultra vires, beyond the powers, and lose the shield of immunity. He confessed to criminal conspiracy of coercion and extortion of rights yesterday on camera. Should have been doing his job, enforcing and protecting our rights.
Well, he's got a challenging job and go easy on him.
I signed the same contract at one point in my life, and I'm risking my life right now to still uphold that contract that is over. He, however, is under contract right now, taking taxpayer dollars to not do his job. which is to protect our rights, which are being violated by this mandate. So in Oregon, we have conscientious objection 431.180 prohibits interference in any medical decisions with anyone's over anyone's person. You have the right to treat by purely spiritual means, and if you have that right, that means you still have the right to public accommodations, which they cannot infer in any manner negative consequences for. That's 659A.030 section D. That is an obligation of good faith portion of your employment contracts with any employer. It's required in every employment contract. And so because they put that sign on that door, they are criminally liable for coercion and extortion of rights. It doesn't matter what anyone thinks. That's what the law says.
I would love it if you were correct.
I am correct.
There's a lot of arguments happening out there, and I'd love to support it, to be honest with you, but it's not that simple. I wish it was.
It really is. They're just saying it's not.
The reality is it's not that simple, and there's a whole lot of legal battles happening right now, so I'd encourage you to join in.
There wouldn't be any if he arrested the criminals that put the order in place.
He answers to a sheriff and answers to the
Right, we've been we've been in the sheriff's office all morning.
He answers to lawful orders from a sheriff. If a sheriff makes an unlawful order, he is supposed to say, no, I'm not going to follow that order.
Hey, I'll tell you what, if it was that simple, we wouldn't be in this position right now. And
it really is.
It really is.
It's the people in those positions. It's the people in those positions.
Oh, you're a commissioner. Oh,
great.
That's awesome.
We submitted a body cam request for actually yesterday's footage of him.
Hey, I'll tell you what, there's no secret. I'm very much against these myself, and I've tried on my...
You have a duty to make sure that it's taken care of then.
If you want to fight it, we put together state, federal, and duress letters that outline exactly how illegal this is for you to turn into your employer and file a non-discrimination complaint, which...
Go ahead and send me what you got, I'll look into it. The sheriff's made a statement that he's probably a little closer in line with you guys than you realize.
No, he's not.
So that sheriff is the one that's commanding him to write us criminal trespass tickets or arrest us if we go in there. Well, so no, he's not. He's contradicting his very statement. That's issuing false statements. That's 18 U.S.C. 1001.
Yeah, we taped the notice up on his door this morning.
Okay, well...
But I'll send you what we got. I appreciate you being against it.
Be respectful. I'm with.
I mean, I don't think I've been hostile or anything towards him. I've been.
Hope not. He's a good guy. So
talking nicely to him. We're actually really disappointed that we even have to do this.
Yeah, a lot of disappointing things this last year and a half have been pretty darn disappointing. So.
They could have stopped it all.
They could have stopped it all.
They were supposed to, actually. That's what we pay them for. That's the problem.
What's up?
So, Deputy Havey here told us on video, as we're recording right now, yesterday, that he will take an unlawful order from your guys'... Oh, you are the sheriff.
I am the sheriff.
Perfect.
Stop out front to talk to you guys. You guys were already gone.
We were there for hours, man. We were there for hours waiting on you.
Exactly. I have other things to be doing.
So these are the...
Oh, you're good to go. Thank you. I'll talk to them.
These are the... You actually have to arrest him according to your first duty, sheriff.
He can go. I can talk to you guys. By the way, you guys are being recorded as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So these are all the Oregon Constitution sections you're violating right now.
Okay. How's that? What's like?
So you gave Haiti the order to arrest or cite anyone who goes in there without a mask if they're resistant. He told me that you gave him the order.
See, you are wrong right there.
He told me yesterday that you gave him the order.
Deputy Havey is here to enforce the crime of trespass, just like you would with any other business in this county. If any other business, you walk over here so I can send my ID. If any other business in this county, every business has the right to make their own rules.
No, not when it comes to constitutional rights.
You are, sir. Every business in this county, every business in the state has the authority to make the rules. And if you choose not to abide by those rules, then you can either leave, or you can be charged with trespass if you choose not to.
Are you making
Interesting.
false and sworn statements right now?
I'm not, sir.
Well, so 659A.375 requires you to have a non-discrimination policy in your employment contract, which requires an obligation of good faith, and you were given notice of such 71-2020 when you signed your non-discrimination policy. In your non-discrimination policy, it tells you that if you discriminate or enforce discrimination, or even fail to do your duty to stop discrimination, you are guilty of coercion.
We're going to have to agree to disagree, sir.
That's what it says in your department policy.
We're going to have to agree to disagree. So...
He's disagreeing with what his department policy says. So, when you restrict access to a public accommodation according to someone's rights, that's deprivation of rights, 18 U.S.C. 242 and 241, when you conspire with another, which you did with Officer Hayes. So you cannot criminally trespass someone who is in a public accommodation within their rights. And 431.180 restricts every authority cited on the public health order from interfering with an individual's right to choose their choice mode of treatment or treatment by purely spiritual means. I mean, you don't have to have a mask. You're conscientious objection. It's a very well protected right here in Oregon up until this last year and a half where you guys have been failing your duties. So in violation of ORS 659A.030 section D, because you have that mandate sign on your door of your department. Now, that's official misconduct because you're violating a statute of your office, which is the non-discrimination policy, which you signed the contract.
Once again, sir, we'll have to agree to disagree on that fact.
Okay.
The Board of County Commissioners are well within their rights.
They're actually violating their contract.
They're well
Absolutely.
within their rights.
You should read your
Can I talk?
regulations.
I'll let you talk. That's my turn to talk. Okay. The Board of County Commissioners are well within their rights to place rules upon their places of business, which is
And those rules have to be constitutional. That's why you have full and equal access protected by 659A.
So it sounds like we're just spinning our wheels at this point.
It sounds like you don't know the laws that you're supposed to know and enforce.
Okay.
That you actually
if you would
signed a piece of paper saying you knew that.
If you would like, sir, you are more than welcome to type up your justifications, like I would have to if I was going to make an arrest. I would have to type up my justifications for that arrest, and I would have to submit it.
And so a confession of confession of criminal conspiracy for coercion.
So please
is satisfactory.
type up your justification, and then email it to me. I will make sure it gets to a judge. Or conversely, feel free to send it straight to the Department of Justice if you feel like we are violating that.
Okay,
Right.
and if I were to place you under private person's arrest right now, would you resist?
I would leave.
So you would resist.
What's your
Okay.
last name, sir?
So he's under private person's arrest for 133225
What's your last name?
for coercion and extortion of rights, and criminal conspiracy for coercion and extortion of rights with Officer Havey.
What's your last name?
So you're going to
I'm not
leave and be a fugitive?
Correct. But if you are going to submit to me a report of misconduct, I
too
want to know
late.
who it's coming from.
You'll get it with our report.
Okay, perfect. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You have a great day, fugitive.
You too.